100 million people. At least as many people were killed by all the wars of the 20th century combined. And as many will die from cigarettes. Electronic or conventional, it doesn't matter. 1,300,000,000 people smoke today. Look at this graph. Pay attention to the 1950s. How much growth has occurred in the manufacture of cigarettes. But what caused it? To understand this, meet Edward Bernay, a legend of propaganda. He presented the idea of selling not cigarettes, but a lifestyle. He understood that in American society, everything depends on the consent of people. In order to double their income, tobacco companies wanted to conquer another market, women's. To get women to smoke, Bernay began by prompting what every woman dreams of, a beautiful and toned figure. The promotion of smoking cigarettes instead of eating sweets began, and this company was successful. But there was a problem. Smoking by women in public places was punishable by law. So, Mr. Bernay took a big risk. At the Easter parade in New York, he asked several young debutantes to take cigarettes with them and smoke them at the same time. Young girls hit the front pages of newspapers, and Bernay called this phenomenon torches of freedom. The press and society ate it up, because let's agree, it was brilliant. A woman with a cigarette in her hands is considered attractive and independent. Yes, this was exactly what women wanted. In turn, tobacco companies created elegant Marlboro cigarettes for women with a red filter on which no lipstick traces were visible. The war helped spread tobacco even faster. Tobacco companies generously distributed free cigarettes to soldiers at the front line. They were part of the ration and were the most sought-after item after weapons and food, to lift their spirits and calm nerves. Also, smoking was prohibited in Nazi Germany, so it was believed that if you don't smoke, you support the enemy. Soldiers became addicted and after returning home brought millions to tobacco companies. Take another look at this graph. Wars and the propaganda of women smoking significantly increased sales. But the main secret of success lies ahead. In the 1950s was published an article about the harm of cigarettes. Smoking leads to cancer and heart diseases. People began to worry about their health. What did tobacco companies do? They started advertising filter cigarettes. But remember I said that Marlboro positioned itself as cigarettes for women. Therefore, men were ashamed to smoke them. Logically, sales should drop. But don't forget Mr. Bernay. He suggested raising doubts about the harm of cigarettes. Tobacco companies conducted fake studies and bribed doctors. But the most important thing is what he did while other competitors were convincing people that their filters were safe. Marlboro bet on ideas, feelings, and emotions.
Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
It was the most successful marketing move in history. Marlboro Man has become a lifestyle, not just a product. This genius move made Marlboro the most expensive tobacco brand nowadays. Wayne McLaren was an actor who starred in their commercials. Strong, brutal, and healthy men made the cigarette sales increase many times.
New Marlboro. Filter, flavor, flip-top box. Popular filter price.
After that, Hollywood stars and influential people were involved in advertising. Actress Marilyn Monroe and even the future president of America, Ronald Reagan, smoked on the TV. So it's not surprising that half of the American population smoked cigarettes by the 1960s. And this was about 80 million people. For example, if your family consists of 4 people, then 2 of them definitely smoke. It was the real smoking epidemic that caused the cancer epidemic. Wayne McLaren is a perfect example of what tobacco companies are really doing. He died of lung cancer 15 years later. His brother's story.
I'm Mac McLaren. The tobacco industry used my brother in ads to create an image that smoking makes you independent. Don't believe it. Lying there with all those tubes in you? How independent can you really be?
Why the state didn't ban obvious evil. It was most profitable to receive taxes from tobacco. Compare for yourself, a pack of cigarettes cost 23 cents, of which 11 cents was received by the state, which is almost half the price. What other markets can pay such a tax? But it couldn't last forever. The truth about tobacco companies was told by their former employee Jeffrey Wigand, who wanted to tell the truth about tobacco manufacturers. He spoke on air of the talk show 60 Minutes about how manufacturers manipulate with the amount of nicotine in a cigarette. and told that they add ammonia to cigarettes to make a person even more addicted. And these elements are deadly for people. Do you think the tobacco companies have cut sales after that? No. Jeffrey was convicted of divulging a trade secret. His wife left him, he lost his big house and his job, life turned into a nightmare. Following the American dream, Mr. Wygand got his way. This caused a boom in society. People started suing tobacco companies and winning large sums of money. American Mayola Willis sued Philip Morris, the owner of Marlboro, for $155 million. She claimed that her husband died of lung cancer because he believed until the end of his days that cigarettes were not harmful. This led to governments cracking down on tobacco companies. Compare a pack of cigarettes from 90 years ago and today. But why is it profitable for them? Instead of banning the sale of cigarettes, the government profited from the taxes the company paid to the victims. Compare yourself. Mayola Willis didn't get all of her $155 million. $99 million is taken by the state of Oregon. Answer this question: who is the tobacco industry's best customer? I'll tell you, children and teenagers. Because if a person learns to smoke at a young age, he will be their client until death. Want to know the best part? To subjugate children, such giants as Philip Morris reinvest blood money in craft foods. They are owners of Milka, Oreo, Philadelphia, and their list is endless. This makes them America's largest food company, so tobacco companies became friendlier and closer to the family. But what's their real purpose? They just replaced tobacco with sugar to get kids addicted, and the methods remain the same. Who remembers Capri Sun, Hawaii Punch? American tobacco company leaders developed dyes and flavorings as additives to cigarettes and used them in children's drinks. This helped them increase their sales. Because of this, the tobacco industry earns $912 billion a year. For example, drug trafficking is only $350 billion a year. You must be wondering, why am I comparing drugs and tobacco? Tobacco is an ideal product on which you can make money all the time. Tobacco today and 100 years ago are one and the same. The main thing is to change methods every time, as it's happening now. The young client demands an innovative approach. So for me and my friends, the industry created Smoke Free, the purpose of which is to save the lives of billions of smokers. But the real goal was different. At the beginning of the century, cigarette sales fell significantly. Regular customers were dying, and young people weren't interested in cigarettes with heavy smoke that irritates the throat. Fortunately for tobacco companies in Beijing, the first electronic cigarette was created, but it became mainstream because of the company Juul. They made it widely available, cheap and easy to share. Juul owned 75% of the e-cigarette market in the US. How did they manage to fool so many people? There were two key elements: propaganda, as you might have guessed, and a unique method that played a decisive role in the company's success. You will learn about in a minute. Compare the advertising of the 20th century and today. The same beautiful people and successful slogans. And what do the youth of the 21st century need? Right, independence, freedom, comfort. Do you remember the cult advertising campaign, Marlboro Country? They invited smokers like, come where there is taste. E-cigarette companies have taken advantage of this move and now have over 7,700 flavors and aromas, especially fruity ones that attract young people. What do you think makes you more addicted? A Marlboro or a Juul? According to researchers at Portland State University, the Juul produces 20 times more nicotine per puff than a Marlboro cigarette, all because of a unique substance, salt nicotine. Because of it, flavors and design, the company created a nicotine youth epidemic. However, Juul was sanctioned for lobbying and using native advertising for teenagers. Sweet and fruity e-cigarettes with reusable cartridges were banned, so the company lost its value. Unfortunately, the law can always be circumvented. The restrictions did not apply to the Elf bar because it cannot be refilled. I would call it a disposable Juul. The company's sale increased by 883% in just 1 year. Native ads on TikTok scare me. This is becoming the form for Generation Z. This is evidenced by the data. 45% of American students claim to have tried vape, and these are only the data for 2022. Doesn't it remind you of 50 years ago, when doctors, actors, and future presidents smoked? That is, you can't smoke cigarettes now because it harms your health, but it's normal to smoke, for example, a Juul. I was wondering how much one Elf bar is in cigarettes equivalent. 100 puffs is about the same as 10 to 15 cigarettes. One Elf bar for 1,500 puffs is 150 cigarettes, and this is only for 3 days. The problem is that it's a vicious cycle of addiction. Compared to a pack of cigarettes, you have an unlimited number of puffs. It's like a TikTok feed that never ends. It can also be smoked anywhere, anytime, at school, public transport, office, or even in bed. We don't know the final effects of e-cigarettes on the human body. As before, the cancer was immediately known, so there'll be a lag of measurements. We don't know what it will all lead to. About 10 years have passed since the mass use of vape started. In America, they're already the first victims of vape. In 2022, 8 teenagers were admitted to the hospital in 1 month with lung damage. In total, we know about 60 deaths. And now we can definitely say that
vaping is dangerous.
This child almost died from this.
8 deaths in the US reportedly linked to e-cigarettes.
Lung illnesses that could be linked to vaping.
It was a scary thought for anybody. They had no idea how to treat it either.
He had to relearn to walk.
It took 2 days for my lungs to fail, and I almost died.
we lost the war with cigarettes in the 20th century. If you look at the statistics of vaping among young people, we will also lose this vape war. And when e-cigarettes go out of fashion, a new technology will be created. Therefore, be careful, because the government will support tobacco companies in order to improve our lives with the taxes received. Did you notice that Philip Morris is the monopolist in tobacco and electronic cigarettes market? It owns the largest Marlboro brand. Click on the video to learn about their dirty work methods.